Wow, this movie is so good. Hello, my fellow cinephiles. I'm Parker. I love movies. Welcome back to the channel. And today, we got Avatar 2 on physical media, so let's talk about that. So of course I'm a big fan of steelbooks, so let's take a quick look at the steelbook. Well, here's the front, here's the back. Let's open it up, and we see that beautiful wraparound panorama. This is great. I really love when they do stuff like this, absolutely. All right, well, let's take a look at the discs. Of course, we've got the 4K HD movie. It's looking pretty fresh. And we got the Blu-ray right here, as well as the bonus special features featuring our Pandorian whale friend here. And of course, there's inside artwork as well. And look at that beautiful sunset or maybe sunrise photo with our whale friend doing some jumpsies. So for me, my most burning and pressing question was, like, which version of the movie do we get here? So obviously we're rocking the 4K, right? No 3D here, although stay tuned for that. That's coming up in just a couple minutes. But according to HollywoodReporter.com, there are over 1,000 different versions of this movie. Now that doesn't mean there's 1,000 different cuts, but rather there's a whole bunch of variations such as language dubs and subs, aspect ratios, if it's going to be ultra wide or regular or super big IMAX. 4K and regular HD is a factor, as well as HDR or SDR, which we'll talk more about later. But then another thing was high frame rate. So when I saw it in theaters, I saw the IMAX 3D high frame rate D-Box edition. D-Box is just like a seat that kind of like moves around and vibrates and shakes you to follow the action and the movement on the screen. It's pretty cool. So which version is this? Well, it's still just the theatrical cut, so there's no extended or super extended version like we have in the original Avatar Extended Collector's Edition, which we'll also talk about coming up next. But rather, it's just the theatrical cut. And on this disc, 4K HDR, 24 frames a second. No high frame rate that I could decipher from when I watched it on my 4K TV, which is capable of those higher refresh rates. Some of you may be wondering, like, well, what's the big deal with high frame rate? So actually Avatar 2 was the first high frame rate movie I had ever seen, but essentially a lot of the action scenes get filmed at double the frame rate, so things just look super silky smooth, and they did. They looked amazing. But then for all the regular, like, talking normal stuff, they filmed that at a normal frame rate. For this one on the disc, 24 frames throughout, which is fine. Like it's totally fine, right? I am a little disappointed though. I would have liked to have the option to have like a high frame rate version. Well, what's on all these other discs? So for the Blu-ray, pretty standard, same exact cut as the 4K version, but HD resolution and SDR color space. Oh, and by the way, all three of these discs, as you can see, are ABC, so they're compatible with all the regions in the world, which I really like. So just a quick little refresher, HDR versus SDR. SDR is what we're kind of been used to. What TV has been displayed at for decades and decades, right? It's just how much light information and how much color information that the cameras can capture and that the display can display. HDR, high dynamic range, on the other hand, is fantastic. I love it. Basically, it's way more light and way more color as well. Blu-ray, just SDR, but despite that, it looks fantastic. I don't think there's any question about it that this is a really good looking movie. So even watching just the Blu-ray on my 4K TV, there is definitely a little bit of like, I can definitely tell, oh, it's just HD. It doesn't look quite as smooth and crispy as the 4K version, but they both look really, really good. So you're in good hands either way. One of my favorite things as a physical media collector, aside from the steelbook, is of course the bonus features, which we have a whole bunch of in this one, mostly just creating the world of Pandora, just like we got on the first one with bonus features. But this one more focused on the animal life, making things underwater, and all the technical challenges and new inventions that were involved just with this underwater production. So how does this compare to the original Avatar Special Edition? Now there is also a 4K re-release of Avatar that just came out. I'm not super interested in buying it because I already have what I would consider to be the ultimate edition. But let's take a look here. It's actually in this really super nice sleeve. So it's kind of like a book. So let's open the book and take a look. Reading Rainbow.
Butterfly in the sky.
Just kidding. All right, here's the front cover, and feel free to pause, read more if you want to. Got the first page. Got that second page, got the third page, and the last page. This one's a special 3-disc edition, which is fantastic. Let's go in reverse order. So for disc 3, basically just a bunch of behind the scenes production stuff. Pretty ho-hum, run-of-the-mill. It gets more spicy though on disc 2, where we have 28 deleted scenes in various degrees of it being finished, as well as more just, you know, how did we create this incredible world? So a lot of good stuff on here. The bread and butter though, for sure, for me anyways, is right here on disc 1, we've got 3 different cuts, 3 different versions of the movie. And in terms of technology, they're all HD, they're all SDR, and they're all 24 frames per second. But in this case, where they differ is that there's actually 3 different cuts of the movie. For example, there's the theatrical release, there's an 8-minute longer extended re-release, and probably my favorite, there's an extended release, which is actually pretty cool. There is actually one more differentiator that I quite like, is that both the theatrical release and the slightly extended release, as well as just the main release of Avatar 2, both have family-friendly soundtracks, which is pretty cool. So like all of the objectionable language is taken out. I love the effort that they put into that, and it makes watching this with anyone a lot more fun. However, the extended version of Avatar does not have the family-friendly version. That doesn't stop me from watching. I think it's definitely my favorite cut of the movie for sure. We get a nice little sneak peek at Earth for the first 5 or so minutes of the movie, which I think is pretty cool. So in short, obviously this movie is a technical marvel. There's a ton of tech and inventions that went into making this, and it's displayed brilliantly in pristine 4K, HDR, all that, yada, yada, yada. It looks great. How does that compare though to the 3D version? I'm one of those crazy people that I still have a 3D TV and I enjoy using it a couple times a month. So let's take a quick look at that. This is the slipcover on the front and the back, and it's basically the exact same. Let's pull that slipcover off. Ah, beautiful. Cracking it open, this is interesting from a technological standpoint. We actually have a 2-parter. So the first roughly 60% of the movie is on disc 1, and then we have the rest of the movie on disc 2, which I love. So for these 3D Blu-rays, it's just the movie, just the Blu-ray, nothing else. Except for that family-friendly soundtrack is also on here, which is awesome, in addition to all the other languages. Behind these, you can pull off part 1, we see just the regular version, and then behind part 2, we see the Blu-ray bonus features. So these two are actually the exact same disc as what we get in the 4K. So it's interesting because the Blu-ray can already fit just one movie on one disc, right? So why did they break it up? Well, I think it's a similar reason to the extended edition of Lord of the Rings. Those are still on 2 different discs. And why is that, you ask? Probably, I would gather, just because of the data. Physical media, even today, still has a higher bitrate than any streaming video. So by breaking it up into 2 different discs, you get the maximum quality possible for the best viewing experience. And that's why this is my favorite version of the movie. 3D for me is so much more immersive than just a slightly crispier 4K version, which is no slouch either, obviously. But there's something about just having that depth that it feels like you could just reach into the TV. Like, I don't even know, it just pulls me in so much more than just a flat image does. So yes, it's just HD, it's just SDR, no HDR here. So obviously it's an A+ for both the 3D version as well as the 4K version. It's just a matter of preference. I know the vast majority of the people on planet Earth are gonna watch it in 2D. Oh, I'm holding it backwards. And probably the vast majority of those are gonna be streaming it, unfortunately. Well, why is that a big deal? Well, right now, as of 2023, even the best 4K HDR experience is limited to about 20 megabits per second data throughput, whereas Blu-rays can have up to 100, 150 megabits per second throughput. So that just means it just looks better. Well, let's take a quick look at the Avatar 1 3D Blu-ray, which I actually picked up just a few months ago in preparation for Avatar 2. Obviously, it's got this nice lenticular 3D effect, which we don't see very often anymore, but there it is. All right, let's take the sleeve off. And surprise, surprise, it's the exact same underneath. And inside, we just have the 3D Blu-ray and, surprisingly, the DVD. Who uses those anymore? Stop buying DVDs, only buy 4K. It's better for everyone when we do that. But I digress. Interesting, looking back, that this is only on 1 disc. But I guess they just felt on a technical level it would fit and be just fine. I guess that's it. That was a quick look at the physical 4K and 3D release of Avatar 2, as well as my technical thoughts. Either way, you're gonna have a good time. Speaking of which, I better get back to my movie. I'm Parker. This is my channel where we talk about movies. Got a full bat. Oh, and my popcorn tin is Avatar 2. I forgot about that. Huh, how funny. Well, time to go back to Avatar 2 3D.